She was a struggling single mom, running late to work, just trying to survive. But when she saw a man lying injured in the rain, she didn't think twice. She helped him. Little did she know, that very man held the power to change her life forever. Fired for being late, she had no idea that her act of kindness would unlock unimaginable fortune, respect, and a future she never dreamed possible. What happened next will shock you and inspire you to believe in the power of one brave choice. It was a chilly, gray Thursday morning. Rain poured down in relentless sheets, bouncing off the pavement and turning the streets into slippery streams. Maria, a single mom, was rushing through the crowded streets with her little daughter Emma, clinging to her hand. Emma's small backpack bounced as she walked, and her wide, curious eyes peered up at her mother, worried she might be late for school. Maria's alarm had gone off late that morning. She had stayed up the night before, finishing extra shifts to make sure rent was paid and groceries were bought. Life as a single mom was a constant battle between responsibilities and dreams, but she always put Emma first. Today, like every day, she had promised her daughter, "I'll be there. I won't let anything stop me." With her coat pulled tight against the rain and her umbrella flipping inside out against the wind, Maria hurried along. She was almost halfway to work when a loud crash pierced the air. A man had collided with his bicycle and fallen hard on the wet asphalt, groaning in pain. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead, and he struggled to sit up. Without a second thought, Maria dropped her bag, ran over and gently helped him to a safer position on the sidewalk. "Are you okay? Can you move?" she asked, her heart pounding. The man grimaced, clearly in shock and pain. She immediately called for an ambulance, speaking rapidly with the operator, giving clear directions to their location. The rain soaked her hair, dripped down her coat, and blurred her vision. But she didn't care. She stayed by his side, holding his hand and offering comforting words until the paramedics arrived. Only when they loaded him onto the stretcher did Maria glance at her watch, and her heart sank. She was over an hour late for work. By the time she arrived at her office, soaked and anxious, her manager was waiting, his face stern. "Maria, this is the third time this month," he snapped. "We can't keep someone who can't show up on time. No excuses." Maria tried to explain, her voice trembling as she recounted the morning's events, but her words fell on deaf ears. She was handed a termination letter, her stomach dropping as the weight of it all crushed her. Walking out of the office, rain dripping from her hair and mixing with tears, Maria felt a wave of hopelessness. She had done the right thing, helped someone in need, but in the world she lived in, kindness didn't pay the bills, and compassion didn't keep a roof over her head. If you like, I can expand Section 2 next to around 400 words, keeping the same engaging, emotional tone so the story flows perfectly for YouTube. Do you want me to do that? Maria left the office that morning feeling completely defeated. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a misty chill that seemed to match the emptiness she felt inside. Her umbrella was broken from the storm, and her shoes squished with every step. The termination letter crumpled in her hand felt heavier than any burden she had ever carried. She had worked so hard, balancing 2 jobs, sleepless nights, and the endless demands of single motherhood. And now, for one act of kindness, it all seemed to have come crashing down. As she wandered aimlessly, Maria couldn't stop replaying the events of the morning. The man on the street, the paramedics rushing in, the blood on his leg. It was a moment of instinct, a choice she had made without thinking. She never imagined it could have consequences like this. Sitting on a park bench, she pulled out her phone and absent-mindedly scrolled through messages, bills, and reminders of the life she was barely keeping afloat. Then, an unexpected email notification popped up. Her heart skipped a beat. The subject line read, "An invitation you cannot miss from Jonathan Crane." She stared at the screen in disbelief. Jonathan Crane, the man she had helped that morning. The thought seemed impossible. Why would a billionaire entrepreneur be emailing her? Her hand shook as she opened the email. Jonathan introduced himself politely, explaining that he had been the man on the street that morning. He had heard from the paramedics about her quick thinking and selfless actions. Unlike her boss, he didn't see her tardiness as a flaw. He saw courage, empathy, and integrity. He wrote that in a world where people often put themselves first, Maria had reminded him that genuine kindness still existed. He invited her to his office for a meeting, insisting he wanted to personally know the person who had gone out of her way to help a stranger. Maria read the email over and over, unable to believe what she was seeing. Her morning act of compassion, the same act that had cost her a job, was now opening a door she never thought possible. For the first time that day, hope crept into her heart. Maybe, just maybe, this was the universe's way of rewarding the choices she had made when no one was watching. The irony wasn't lost on her. Sometimes doing the right thing comes at a cost, but it can also lead to unimaginable opportunities. Maria wiped the tears from her eyes, straightened her back, and whispered to herself, "This could change everything." The next morning, Maria found herself standing in front of a towering glass building that gleamed under the morning sun. She felt completely out of place in her worn coat and tired shoes. This was Jonathan Crane's company, a place she had only seen in magazines, a world so far removed from the cramped apartment she shared with Emma and the small office that had just fired her. Her heart pounded in her chest as she took a deep breath and walked inside. The lobby was enormous, with polished marble floors and walls of glass that reflected the sunlight. Employees in sharp suits moved purposefully around her, their expressions serious, yet focused. Maria felt small and unsure, but she remembered why she was here. She had helped a man in need that morning without thinking of the consequences, and now that very act had brought her to this moment. Jonathan greeted her personally, extending a firm handshake and a warm smile. "Maria, I've been waiting to meet you," he said. "I've heard a lot about you today. Not about your resume, not about your skills, but about your character." Maria's stomach fluttered. She had never been praised for her kindness before, only for deadlines met and tasks completed. The interview began, but it was unlike anything Maria had ever experienced. Jonathan didn't ask her about marketing strategies or sales numbers. Instead, he asked her about her life, her choices, and her values. "What matters most to you?" he asked. "How do you make difficult decisions? What guides you when no one is watching?" Maria answered honestly, sharing the struggles of being a single mom, the challenges of working long hours, and the joy she found in helping others. As she spoke, she noticed Jonathan leaning forward, listening intently, his eyes reflecting genuine interest. By the end of the meeting, Maria realized that he wasn't just evaluating her skill, she was seeing her heart. Within minutes, Jonathan offered her a position in his company, one that came with flexibility, a generous salary, and opportunities she had never dared to dream of. Maria left the building with tears in her eyes and hope in her heart. The very act that had led to her being fired had now become the key to a life she had never imagined. It was a profound lesson. Sometimes, doing the right thing may seem costly in the moment, but it can open doors to extraordinary opportunities. Maria's life transformed almost overnight, but the changes went far beyond just a bigger paycheck. She could finally breathe without the constant weight of worry pressing on her chest. She could provide Emma with things she had only dreamed of before: better food, a safe apartment, and even the small joys of life that money couldn't always guarantee. But what touched Maria the most wasn't financial security. It was the respect, trust, and recognition she had longed for all her life. At Jonathan Crane's company, Maria quickly realized she had entered a world that valued character just as much as skill. Her co-workers were sharp and ambitious, but many lacked the warmth and empathy she carried naturally. Within weeks, Maria became known not just for her dedication and intelligence, but for her compassion. She organized charity events, led community outreach programs, and helped her colleagues navigate not only their work challenges, but personal ones too. People looked up to her, inspired by the courage she had shown in that rainy street. Jonathan often visited her office, a quiet smile on his face. "Maria," he said one afternoon, "you remind me why business is about more than profits. It's about people. You've changed the atmosphere here, more than you know." Those words touched her deeply. She realized that her life's struggles, the hardships, and even the humiliation of losing her previous job had led her to this moment, where she could make a difference in a much bigger way. Despite her success, Maria never forgot that rainy morning when she chose to help a stranger, instead of rushing to a clock. That single choice had altered the course of her life. Every night, when she tucked Emma into bed, she whispered, "Remember, sweetheart, even when it's hard, do the right thing." Sometimes it seems small, but one act of kindness can change everything. The story spread quietly through the company at first, then more broadly, inspiring colleagues, friends, and eventually strangers online. It became a powerful reminder that courage, compassion, and integrity are not just moral choices. They can be life-changing. Maria had gone from a single mother struggling to survive to a woman whose heart and bravery were shaping the world around her. She realized something profound. Life might punish you for doing the right thing in the moment, but it always has a way of rewarding those who act with love and courage. Months had passed since that rainy morning that changed Maria's life forever. She had grown into her new role with confidence, proving herself not only as a talented professional, but as a person of integrity and courage. Her life with Emma had transformed completely. No longer a daily struggle just to get by, Maria now had the stability, freedom, and hope she had long dreamed of. One evening, Maria stood on a grand stage at a charity gala, dressed elegantly but nervously fidgeting with her notes. Hundreds of people sat in front of her, all waiting to hear her story. The room was filled with the sound of cameras flashing and whispers of anticipation. Taking a deep breath, Maria began to speak. She recounted her morning in the rain, the injured man, the paramedics, and the moment she realized she was late for work. She told them about the heartbreak of losing her job for doing something good, and the unexpected twist of fate that brought her face to face with the billionaire she had helped. The audience listened intently, many with tears in their eyes. Some nodded knowingly, as if they had experienced similar struggles. Jonathan Crane sat in the front row, pride shining in his eyes, silently applauding the woman who had once risked everything to do what was right. He knew her story wasn't just about luck. It was about courage, selflessness, and unwavering integrity. Maria's voice grew stronger as she delivered the lesson she had learned. Life doesn't always reward you immediately for doing the right thing. Sometimes it punishes you. But kindness, courage, and integrity never go unnoticed. They have a way of coming back to you in ways you could never imagine. By the end of her speech, Maria felt a wave of peace wash over her. Her story had reached hundreds, inspiring countless people to act with compassion, even when it seemed inconvenient. She realized she was no longer just a survivor. She was a symbol of hope and resilience. Walking off the stage, Maria held Emma's hand tightly, whispering, "Do good, even when no one is watching, because one day it might just change your world." That single act of kindness that once seemed so small had sparked a chain of events that reshaped her life completely. Maria had learned a truth that would guide her forever. The smallest acts of love and courage can create the biggest miracles.